Hey, ladies and gentlemen. So welcome back to the channel for our very first podcast on the channel. And today our guest is Andrew Mercado. Have I pronounced your name right there?
You have, sir.
Okay, Andrew, thank you so much for accepting to come on to the channel. I'm a big fan of yours, and we'll get into the reasons why, and I'm guessing on this podcast and stuff. But before we get started, where can people find you? I like to do this at the beginning because people wait till the end and stuff. And look, if people want to follow you and stuff like that, I'd rather give them access to that information straight away, mate.
Super appreciated. Yeah, you can find me on Mercado Media, on Facebook, on Instagram, Twitter, website, mercadomediaproductions.com. So if you want to see us outside of social media, you can find us there. YouTube, great resource there as well. Just like Ryan on YouTube, just does great content. Love it. So thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for having me and providing this opportunity for me.
Hey, man, absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure. I've been tuned into your channel. I think it popped up about 3 months ago, and I started watching your stuff. I think the algorithm kicked in because we kind of cover similar topics, although I personally believe you do a much better job of it than me. But I think that was the reason you popped up in my feed. So I'm not just a YouTuber by job. I'm a fan of YouTube as well, and I like to watch other people. So because of your background and stuff like that, and we'll get into it in a few moments, I kind of took interest in your channel. And I think, personally speaking, out of all of the Ukrainian military bloggers out there who are covering the war, I think you've got the greatest knowledge on that subject. And I'd like to delve deeper into that, actually, where that knowledge comes from and stuff later on, because I'm actually learning things from you every single day and trying to replicate that on my own streams, So, congratulations on that, first and foremost. I think you do a great job on YouTube, and I think 100,000 subscribers is coming your way shortly, It should do anyway.
And thank you so much for that too. And you do excellent work as well. And like you said, the algorithm kicked in, and I didn't know anyone in the military community on YouTube or the open source intelligence community where people are trying to find information with regards to a war. And there's a lot of veterans involved. I didn't know. And like you said, the algorithm kicked in, and then I just started seeing everyone's YouTube channels, and you do a fantastic work in your own regard. I like when when you spent time and did that hour-long some stream where you did and went through the map and just was slower with it. I think that's what people do like. There's like a difference between a lot of the content is short formed, like TikToks or like Reels type. And then there's long form based content. So there's different things for different people. Mine's longer form content, longer live streams, like a podcast style. And I feel that people these days are more open to that style now.
I agree. Yeah, it's strange how it's like how the whole YouTube thing's developed, and short form I think is really good for a certain catchment area, a certain group of individuals. But sometimes you just want to sit down with a cup of coffee and chill out for an hour and listen to someone's opinion. So that's kind of what I do with your streams, and a few other guys. So all the links will be in the description, troops, anyway, with regards to Andrew Mercado's channel and stuff. Go give him a follow. Honestly, guys, he's a fantastic guy. So all links will be in the description. But my first question for you, I don't want to keep this like a question answer type thing, but I really want to know about you in general. Like, talk to me about yourself. Like, you start from as far back as you want to, basically.
As far back as I want to.
As far back as you want to, man.
So no shit, there I was. I'm from Minnesota. Grew up in the United States in Minnesota. I was adopted as a child. So, that was an interesting upbringing with not my birth parents, but I was like a baby when I was adopted. So I really only know my adoptive parents. Like, they are my parents. So.
Okay.
Went through high school. I'm about an average student, about C student, not really anything great. B's, A's in the arts, like band classes or technology classes, ironically, like really good at that, but and reading as well and writing. But math, sciences, I'm absolutely not good at that. So I struggled with that in high school, average student. I didn't know what I was going to do with my life outside of high school before I went into the military. I was going to go to college, and I wasn't doing anything with my life at that time. I was 19 years old. I was like a kid. It was just a weird time in my life. It was 2012. I mean, I didn't know what I was going to do. This was 2000. So I graduated high school 2011. 2012 comes around. I'm in college, just skipping class, smoking weed, not doing anything, right? You know, not sure what I'm going to do. And so then I go to the recruiter's office, you know, do the thing. They get me in, all that stuff. It takes from April of 2012. I went to the recruiter's office, signed up, got in the military, 88 Mike truck driver. That was my MOS in the military. So then I joined in 2012, October, and I got stationed in Alaska. And wow. I'm kind of bouncing from childhood into military, but my childhood was pretty normal upbringing. You know, parents just wanted me to get good grades, you know, go to get a job after school, pay bills, you know, pretty normal, basic upbringing. Nothing too challenging in my childhood. Had everything that we needed. My parents provided for us heavily. They worked hard. You know, I didn't have any struggles growing up. I didn't have any. So my only struggles were within. So that's why I went to the military to try to figure some of that out, because I wasn't on the right track when I was 19 years old, and I needed to be put on a path, and I didn't know what that was. So the military, I'm sure, as you know, I'm speaking preaching to the choir. The military will put you on it'll get you right. It'll
absolutely.
Fix you. Tell me about some of your early military experiences. I haven't heard any of those.
It's funny actually that you know, just listening to your background and stuff, and you'll be able to relay this back to me as well. Your story seems to be synonymous with a lot of guys and girls who joined the military. You know, I've lost count of how many blokes I've worked with who. It seems such a strange demographic, but it makes sense. And you know, even from like your younger years, you said you were an orphan and you were adopted by by parents, and it's like, you know, how many guys I've worked with the exact same start who ended up doing extremely well in the military and other things. It's almost like, in terms of a demographic to succeed in the military, that seems to be one of them. And I don't know why that is. I guess it's because you had a good upbringing, right? You said
solid upbringing. It could be, I mean, the perseverance, because I don't know I don't know my birth parents. I don't know 100%, you know, where I was birthed. I know where the city I was birthed in, but it's different from like where I grew up. I was born in Minnesota, but it's a city that I was born in that it's far north. It's about an hour away. I've only been there a couple times, so I don't really know like my birthplace well, or like my birth parents at all, or anything like that. So
do you have like an inner searching in you at some, do you know what I mean? Is there something that you're searching for as a result of that? You know, you went in pursuit of the military, you lost a little bit of track of life in the key years as a young adult male. I can understand that. I've been through something very, very similar at that age, where you're young and impressionable, and you feel as if you're not really contributing in society in the way that you want to. So you tend to go the opposite way. But you joined the military to reverse that, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah, I just had this. It might just be how my brain works, but I've always had this sense of I need to do something. Or I need to be something, or be someone, not like someone important or someone like a big famous person, but like I can't just do nothing or just sit, like, you know what I mean? I can't be a non-servant to society in a way to try to improve it, to try to make the people I interact with better. And for me, when I was 19, that was like, dude, and I guess I had the self-awareness at 19 where I can't just skip school and skip class, smoke weed, and expect to, you know, live a sustainable life like that. I couldn't do that. And it was my friend, and we went to the recruiter office together. He didn't join. I ended up joining because we were going to go together. And the Army had a program at the time where you could go to basic training with a friend. Like if you wanted to join, if you wanted
awesome.
If you had a friend in your hometown, you joined together. The Army was trying to make it so you could go together. So
That's brilliant.
It was brilliant. It was smart.
I'm all for that.
Smart by the Army. So they get more people in. You can go through it with you have a whole friend with you the whole way, unless they had a different job, because then after basic training, they go to a different, job training. But you could still, through the whole process because in the U.S. military, in the U.S. Army, the Marines do this too. I think the Navy do, but in the Army, we had future soldier training. So every Wednesday before I went to basic training, I had to go to this office in my hometown, and there was NCOs in there and the recruiters, and they'd give like an hour-long class where we do PT 1 week, or the next week we do we'd learn the alphabet, or we'd learn just radio, how to call up a 9-line or whatever, just random information that was so helpful when I got to basic, because it was like, oh, I already know this. Okay, bam. Now I'm not going to look like an idiot to the instructor when he's giving what he's, you know what I mean? Because you don't want to be that guy. But the recruiting was huge, and my recruiter I'm still friends with my Army recruiter, and he supports my work that I do now. He's on my streams. He's a supporter of it. So it's kind of
fantastic.
It's kind of come around full circle. But when I was joining the military, it was huge. My friend was with me, but when it came time, to sign on the dotted line, do the ASVAB, he ghosted. He ghosted, but I went. So
yeah, that's recruiters are known for getting you in and then forgetting you, but the fact that yours still talks to you is, it's testament to him. You can form, good friendships for life at that early stage, and at the end of the day, I think a lot of recruiters understand that they've got to sell it a certain way to you and let you go on your own path, which is clearly what you've done. I'm really intrigued about this joining the military with a friend thing. I've spoken to people about this before, and one of the hardest parts of military training for me was, although it has its pros, is I was on my own, and you're forced into, making new friendships and stuff like that. But I'm quite an introvert, believe it or not, although YouTube is an extrovert environment. Internally, outside of this, I'm an introvert. There you go. You're the same. Yeah. It's strange how many similarities we've all got, but that was difficult for me to form new friendships, because I don't know what that is about my personality. I'm very closed off in that regard, But yeah, going through that training program with a friend, I don't see any negatives with that whatsoever. I think that's a great opportunity for people. I wish we did something like that, because shared adversity is one of the. It sounds stupid, but shared adversity from experience is one of the most bizarre, great experiences of life. And although it was crap at the time, the memory of it seems to be really, really good. I don't know. All of my good memories of the military are the ones where it was pretty shit times, to be honest with you. I don't know about yourself.
Yeah. And it's because of the work that you put in to come out of it. I agree. The resiliency that you had to go through to get through that, and you come out of it, and it's like, oh, wow, what an accomplishment. And so it's that feeling of accomplishment afterwards, I believe, that gives that event, even though that event might have been very bad, very poor. And in recent memory, we will talk about this in a bit, but some of the things I've been through in my reporting have been pretty wild, some even wilder than my military experiences. Wow. Pretty bad experiences. But at the end, I can say, wow, I went through that. I did the work that it took to get through that. I'm stronger from it. I've learned. And the other thing too is the power of learning from that experience too, and what you can take from that and then use it in the future. If you have a similar experience, or you don't know how to approach something, but now you do because you went through it before, so it's a little easier. I know it's a bunch of different things that contribute to why it's a good feeling, even though it's a bad situation that you might have been through. I
agree.
Yeah,
I think. Again, you've been through that just in a different country, Well, I think that's one wonderful thing that I really appreciate about the United States military. I've worked alongside the U.S. Marines and a small amount of the U.S. Army. Although they're different in nature, the mentality and the ethos runs throughout the whole American military. It doesn't matter if you're in the Navy or the Army. It's the ethos has come through, and that resilience as a person comes through, And I think that's what makes us so interoperable. We work together for a same cause. We understand that adversity, it might be crap at the time, but we can get through it, and we can talk about it in a positive way thereafter, And I've got nothing but respect for the United States military. I know that doesn't seem to be shared with some countries around the world, but having worked with you guys, there's more similarities than differences, is what I'll say. Maybe it's an accent difference, but on cloth, I think we're pretty similar.
Very similar, and we call it the warrior ethos too. In the U.S. military, the same with when I was deployed and when I was in the Brits, the Australians, the Canadians, all of us got along in different branches too. Of course, we have the high school rivalry between individual branches type, Army, Marines, and Navy, Air Force. But when it's time to work, time to get shit done, it's let's do it. There's the separation of branches doesn't matter just because your uniform color looks your camouflage looks a little different on that goes out the window when work needs to get done. Yeah,
it's strange how that I don't know. It's a shared understanding. It's so true. I guess it's the way our military trains us and also recruits us from certain demographics. I don't know what it's like in the United States, but there's hot spots in the UK. If you were to get a map a little bit like the Ukraine map or the deep state map, it has these little flashpoints of where stuff's happening. Mm-hmm. It would be the same in terms of recruitment data for the British military. There's certain areas that just produce loads of military guys. I'm guessing it's the same for the United States.
The South in the United States.
There you go. See, you had an answer for that straight away. So it is. It's true, right?
Yeah.
So talking about the military then, Andrew, what inspired you to join in the first place? What was the overall inspiration behind that move?
So again, it was just lack of motivation, lack of what I wanted to do in life. 19 years old, no direction. My parents, as good as they had raised me, they were hard on. They're very old school, hard on the go to school, get good grades, you'll have a good life, right? And I was going to school, wasn't getting good grades, but I wasn't really even attending the classes either. So I was like I'm going to make my parents not happy. And I don't know what they're going to, I'm 19 years old now. They really have no obligation to, continue supporting me. I'm a grown man in the United States. 18 years old is the age of being an adult. So I was, and again, I'm sure they would have, I don't know. This is just how my brain works. I was like, man, I need to do something. I can't rely on them forever. I can't rely on my family to take care of me. I'm doing nothing. I'm just smoking weed and not even going to school. And I'm paying for this. And I paid for school out of my own money.
Wow.
My first year was a little under $6,000 because I went to a community college, which is cheap. If I went to a state college or a university, that's tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars to go to school. So I went to a community college, and that's like kind of a cheaper route, sometimes smarter too in the United States to go to community college or even a state college, which is a little bit more expensive, but not as expensive as universities. Sure. Those are, my goodness. But I could pay for it. I worked through high school and had enough money saved up and paid for my first year of college out of my own savings. Great, man. Thank you. And then I was like, well, I can't afford college again. I didn't work through the first year of school, so I had no money to spend on a second year of schooling. And again, I wasn't making the grades to motivate myself to do that. So I joined the military, 19 years old. October 2012, I went to Fort Jackson, South Carolina. I know a couple of our guys who do some. I've never been there, but I know a couple of Marines have been there, and the Army mainly as well. I think certain elements of maybe SFSG go there as well, like the Special Forces Support Group that Britain have. I don't know if are the Rangers based out of that place as well. No, they're out of Fort. Fort. It's in Georgia.
Right, yes.
Benning. Benning.
Right, that's what I'm getting.
And Bragg. Fort Bragg. North Carolina. Yeah. So there's North Carolina, South Carolina, Fort Jackson's in South. The 82nd Airborne is in Fort Bragg in North Carolina.
Right. Okay, that must be well.
That's the 82nd. Like that's one of the airborne units. That's pretty famous.
Awesome, man.
In the Army. So I went there. They call it Relaxin' Jackson. It wasn't really relaxing for me. Our barracks weren't built yet, so we were in transient trailers when we got there. So like when you join the the U.S. Army, when you get to your basic training spot, you're supposed to have like a barracks building, and like there's a whole setup for, you know, fire guard and CQ desk and all of this stuff. But we didn't have that. We were in literal transient trailers because our barracks were still being built on base. Our whole company was getting brand new barracks, but our rotation, we didn't have that. We were in literal trailers, so there was sand and dirt everywhere, and we had to make sure the kill zone was clean, but there was dirt all over it all the time because of we were in like the sands. We were just like off to the side on post in this like dirt pit with all in these trailers. Like it was rough, but we made it work. You know what I mean? Like you said, not knowing anybody in basic training, you know, I didn't know anyone either, but we had to develop friends pretty quick because my friend didn't come with. I went solo dolo down to Fort Jackson, all that experience. It was an experience having to make new friends, and especially from people from all over, you know, new people.
There's one thing I found in the military. You'd probably be able to relate to this. A lot of the problems when you leave the military, when you see how society works with each other and certain groups getting along or not getting along, the thing that frustrated me when I left specifically, and I had to get reintegrated back into society, so to speak, and work in normal jobs and stuff, was just how poorly everyone seemed to get along, and certain groups wouldn't speak to certain groups. And in the military, you know, that it might happen to a certain degree, but I'm talking minimal. Where I was, people like the whole aspect of color, the whole aspect of where you come from, what you talk like, what you look like, all of that is complete BS. It's rubbish, and you either get along for the cause or you fail miserably. And that's one thing that I think really helped me have a greater understanding of human beings in general. We at the core of a human being, and you're going to get brought back to your core in the military. It's designed that way. You realize that, hey, you know what? We're exactly the same. You're either a good egg or you're a bad egg. You want to get along or you don't get along. You're either lazy or you're going to work together. And it's as clear cut as that, you know? That's the thing that still frustrates me now in Civvy Street, is just how all of these arguments, all of these divisions and stuff like that, literally a military training course, although it might be a hard way around it, it would cure most problems we have in society, you know?
Some complacency and resiliency classes. That was what we had to learn too. And with drill sergeants, we had drill sergeants. They had hammered it into our head. You know, individualism in the military isn't going to get you very far. You got to work together as a team. You got to, I mean, you have a sense of individualism, but when you got to get a task done, you got to work together. You can't do it on your own. You can't I mean, even just on we literally couldn't go anywhere without someone with us, right? It's called a battle buddy. It sounds so cringe, right?
No, we have the same
okay,
thing.
so it's called a battle buddy. We could not go anywhere in training environment, even in deployment while we were in the military, really couldn't go off by our own. Absolutely. You can't be by yourself. You had to have a battle buddy with you at all times. Ask your drill sergeant if like a female wanted to talk to the drill sergeant, then two males had to accompany that female, or two females to a male. It was like a certain ratio, but it was all learning how to work together and how to not think that you know all the answers. And the drill, absolutely, they really broke you down and like got you to work together, because there were some people that pushed back at that. A couple individuals in my basic training unit were pushing back at that, and they got right after a couple weeks, because going on it on your own, I mean, then the people aren't going to like you either, because then you don't want to be a team player. You're being we call it a blue falcon. You're being a buddy effort. You know, you're screwing everybody over, right? You got to work with us, or we're gonna not like you. So, yeah,
and those guys get found out pretty quickly, and it's like I often look at the course that I went through and think, it's hard in many ways, but I think the science behind it, these courses haven't just been created because of, well, we need to get you guys fit, so we'll do PT. We need to get you guys good in the field, so we'll go out in the field. It has a lot more depth to that. And then I realized there's real scientists and psychologists behind the building of these training programs to really strip you back as a human being. So it's not just a basic military course. The science behind it is really, really strong. It's proven to bring you back to the bare bones of human, and almost the growing up, the 20 years or so that you had of growing up, all the isms that you get kicked out of you, and you have to be almost a new person at the end of that training. And I think that's one of the problems when you leave. You become a better version of yourself. And society, not to shit on civilians at all, but it's almost like that person only works in a better environment, a more primed environment. When you leave, that environment is no longer, and you're a primed individual living in an unprimed environment. It's like, I think that's where many of the struggles come from post-service. I don't know if you've got any experience of something similar.
Yeah, dude. Oh my God, I have some experiences, and we can after the military talk, we can get into that about my reporting and what I do now for YouTube and Facebook. But I mean, like it's the high speed environments that we were in, right? And having to navigate that and everyone that you're with, right? Because the goal, when you're, at least for us in Alaska, the goal was to get everything done right way. Don't make your squad leader happy so he can go to the platoon sergeant. We can get off work maybe a half hour earlier than what we were supposed to do, right? The goal was to try to get off of work as early as we could, and not stay at till like 8 o'clock at night because we didn't get the Connex layout done, or we didn't do this or that. Like, we really tried to, make it so we could, our work life was better. But then when you get out of that and you get into civilian world, and people are individuals and they only care about what they got going on individually, it's not a team effort for anything. Even in some of the communities I'm in, like I play softball heavily. I'm on a softball team. I tried to run my own softball team this year. I mean, I'm successful at everything pretty much I do, right? And pretty good. And I couldn't lead any of these dudes. None of them wanted to show up for practice. None of them wanted to play hard and win.
So true.
I'm like, bro, I can't even engage out here.
That's why I think a lot of military leadership, and they know they're lucky in a way. They're dealing with exemplary individuals who will listen. They're taught that way. The command and leadership thing works fantastic in the military. A true test of your leadership qualities in Civvy Street that's where the challenge begins, because you could have been a colonel, leading for 30 years. You're going to struggle to have the same level of dedication off the average Joe, because they're not primed in the way to respect command and leadership. The command structure doesn't exist in Civvy Street, and
there is none.
It's like, if you look at us as a species, we do need that hierarchy in place, although it can be abused in certain ways. I'd rather have some form of command and structure in place, because I understand how beneficial it can be for society. And I'm just talking about that micro society in the military. It worked, and it worked really, really well,
What does that look like for you? How would that be conducted in a civilian society in your mind?
So I think the only way it would work is even to be slightly effective in normal society outside the military. We need to look back at why it worked for us. There was an element of training involved that allowed us to, and this is the key word, respect that authority. But respect is only earned through trust. And I don't know about you, but I trusted my superiors, because the right decision, even if it didn't achieve the right goal, or if they didn't achieve the goal, it was always meant for the right reasons. So we respected authority. Whereas in Civvy Street, we struggle with trust reasons. Let's just look at governments and stuff, and nothing conspiratory related. Just there's a general lack of trust with the people who lead our countries, right? And that obviously whittles down to how much respect we have for authority. So I think it stems from the top down. If we had more trust in the people above us, and we had a little bit of, it doesn't have to be military training, but there has to be some form of order to be able to respect the process. But it all stems from trust, and I think most people don't trust, the topper echelons of society as much as they should.
So just like general powers that be aren't given the respect that. So like when we were in the military, we weren't given tasks that are like criminal in nature, or tasks that are we're a very professional military, like your Western militaries. We're given tasks like we got to to clean the Connex out for the day, or layouts, or make sure that we have things good to go. You know, we're given tasks to do that we know that it's not coming from bad faith, or people or instructions that are not bad faith instructions. Or they were being told things that aren't being told in bad faith. Like my sergeant was never like, "Hey, go do this," but I really mean this. You know, it was never like that. It was, "Go do this." That's exactly what I'm talking about. And I feel like, and I feel like out here sometimes with civilians, they'll say one thing, but they really mean another, because they don't know direct communication, or they have ulterior motives. And then you are like, whoa. And then, oh man, it happens to me constantly where I feel like I'm direct with someone, and then they have ulterior motives that I don't pick up on immediately because I'm being direct with them. And like, I'm feeling like they're being direct with me, but
they're not.
Yeah, but they're not.
Yeah, it's a minefield having to work through that. I'll be honest. I struggled with the exact same thing. I from where we come from, direct communication, no bullshit, cut the crap, tell me what needs to be done. I did that in my first job leaving the military. I got in trouble pretty quick, and I think, why am I getting wrong for giving exactly the information that I need to get this accomplished? Okay, I worked in the corporate finance world. Okay, and I should have got results being that way. And I learned quickly that I have to cater myself to not be as direct. Sometimes I have to, fluff it up to sound a little bit better than what it is. And almost it's like a false sales pitch. Yeah. And people bought into the false sales pitch more than the direct sales pitch, even though they knew directly that what I was saying was probably, a little bit far from the truth, but they preferred it to sound that way. That's the bit that confused me.
Dude, I know. It's 100% that. It's how we're coming off. Like, and that's what got me in, I guess, in some, that happened to me. I was not a corporate world, but for softball. And I come back to that because that's one of the communities that I engage in outside of my work. And I'm thinking I'm giving instructions to the team, and like, they're thinking I'm being mean to them or something.
Yeah.
But I'm not. I'm being direct. And people have an issue with being direct, and it's 100% with what you're talking about. People aren't receptive of it, and they'll shut down if it sounds mean, or if it sounds like you're being, I don't know, like you're coming at them or something.
I've got an ulterior motive against you, and it's like, listen, there's zero personal affiliation with what I'm saying to you. I have nothing against anyone. We just need to get this, and this done. This is the quickest route to do that. It's a similar thing in the United Kingdom as it is in the United States. I'm guessing people watching this from Europe and stuff in their military are probably saying the exact same thing, and I guess that's why, indirectly, we've got a community on our very own platform. There's similar guys to me and you on YouTube, and we seem to be covering similar topics. We seem to get along quite easy. For me, it was a simple email to get in touch. If you want to do this, it was a simple email back. Yes, it's like there was no bullshit involved. It was
literally,
and I don't know. It's a lot harder to do with non-military people, I would say.
Oh,
and again, it's not a hit at non-military people. Guess what? No. Me and you are both non-military ourselves now, so we're part of that community too. Yep. We've just seen the other side, and I do prefer it. I do prefer the military way of doing things, and it'll always stick with me.
And I think that's why what you're doing too is huge with, your channel, or even like what we're doing in the civilian world now that we're civilians, is trying to bring more people that weren't in the military to understanding what military topics are, but also show that like we can have these direct conversations and direct information gathering. And that's what my channel is about. Sometimes it can be pretty boring, I guess, because I don't fluff up what I'm talking about. Sure. I don't, my voice is pretty, I don't really change my voice in fluctuation too much. Like, hey, let's go everybody. We're doing great today. And I'm not built like that, but
you never will be as well.
No, I'm just pretty open and honest, but the military really did help me get to that point and be direct and say, what I'm saying is what I'm meaning the first time. Not, you're not going to find out later through other things about what I really meant, or I'm not leaving breadcrumbs for you. I'm pretty direct with it.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think it shows on your channel. That's what I like. I think that's why we get a lot of like-minded people tuning in. And again, a lot of my viewers aren't military as well, but they seem to like the direct way because they've been spoon-fed a certain way for that long. I'm not sure about you. I'm not saying what I read in the news is false, but I do have to watch 3 or 4 reports over the span of 3 or 4 weeks from the same source to get the information that still might not be the right. It's like, you know, if you have to decipher the news, that's not news. Mm-hmm. That's what I think. It's like, well, if I have to become an investigative journalist on an amateur level to decipher what I'm hearing, then that's not what the news should be there for. The news used to be there to say, listen, this is what's happening. That's it. That is what's happening. Not, do you know what I mean? And I've fallen for that trap myself a few times because, I mean, most of the information we get, unless we're out on the ground ourselves, is from alternate media, you know, for other sources. So it's really hard to, you know, sieve your way through all of that information and come out with what you believe to be the right thing. Because at the end of the day, what we're given is, it's all based on opinions of someone else's opinions, right?
Right.
You know?
Right. Opinions of opinions, or a lot of it's analysis too. And it's presented as this is the fact, but it's actually just someone's analysis of it. It can come from a good faith analysis and someone trying to really break it down, but a lot of it is just analysis. But I feel like that's why people like you and me are doing well out here, because people are looking for independent, non-corporate, not like a major media conglomerate for information. People want to get to know, they want to be personable with the person that's giving them information. They want to be able to interact with them. They don't want
to be relatable.
Yeah, be relatable. They don't want to just talking head on the TV telling them what it is, right? Where they have no access to that person at all, and they can't ask like for me, people can literally in my chat, and I'm sure you can speak this on as well. They can ask me questions, and then if I catch it in the chat or whatever, oh yeah, sure, let me look that up real quick for you while I'm live. You know, and it's such an interactive experience with independent creators or independent news. And that's exactly what you said. I mean, a lot of people are looking for information on social media these days. Most people get their news from social media now. They don't even get their news from the major media corporate companies on TV anymore. So it's all relative. I think people are choosing they're going the right direction and trying to find some independent sources and try to really get down to the bottom of it. But at the same time, it's all about how that information is relayed as well. If it's in good faith, if you're not adding in any of your own personal, changing the how it really was to try to fit your own personal narrative, try to force it into that lane when it's not even in that lane. You know, it's all different for different people too.
It's true, man. And I mean, what you've explained there is, it could be summed up as all you're doing is trying to give your best version of what you believe the truth is. That's it. There's no malice involved. There's no gender. There's no generalization of topics to suit like what you generally believe. You're just trying to be as neutral as possible and just give what information you have. It's really difficult to do, I think. I mean, I've had both sides of the coin, both negative comments and good comments. It normally, and I've tried this, it's normally if you slip slightly from being neutral, if you are a neutral channel and you slip slightly into a certain direction, people will figure you out straight away. Which doesn't have, the news doesn't really have that accountability, because there's no real way to interact with the news directly. If you think we are laying it on the line, and people can call you out for your bullcrap straight away, pretty much. I mean, you pretty much live stream everything you do, so you're not going to get any more realer than that. It's as real as it comes, man. And I think people like you for that reason.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for that compliment. It goes back to our topic on the military and learning how to convey information being direct, right? When we had to call up a 9-line on the radio, or you had to call up anything on the radio, or any type of communication back and forth was direct. You had to be. You don't have, when you're on comms, you literally cannot fluff it up. You can't be like, hey bro, what's going on? You can't. You literally can't. You'll get in trouble. You'll get super in trouble. You'll get people will be pissed at you. Like, you might even lose rank, maybe. Like,
absolutely.
If there's someone on the other end and they don't like how you were on the radio or whatever, they can call you in, have a non-judicial punishment, maybe Article 15 if you're goofing off on the radio when it's serious time. So that's another reason of how I learned how to relay information directly and not be all fluffy with it and say things that don't matter, or say things that aren't relevant to the topic. And that the military has really helped with that.
I think the military, it makes you understand that you definitely, without question, have to be accountable not only for your actions, but more so whatever you're talking about. You better say it with conviction and truth, because if you're not, you're going to be accountable for whatever you said, And I don't know what it's like in the United States military. It's probably the same. If you're going to make a decision, you're going to say something, say it with conviction, say it with truth. Even if it's the wrong decision, you're not going to be punished for ever making a decision or saying something with conviction or truth, You might get a slap on the wrist, like, hey, you made a wrong call there. But if you really meant it and it was with truth and it was with conviction, you'll never, ever get truly penalized for that. And I think that's what Civvy Street lacks a little bit of now. You can kind of say what you want, especially on social media. Nothing really seems to happen. If anything, I'll be honest with you, we've seen censorship to a degree happen more so with, being as truthful as you can be and trying to say things with conviction, We've seen it on military bloggers such as ourselves with...
Dude, we can't, they demonetize us immediately. I mean, we can't... So true. They can't, and it's not even a conspiratorial thing. No. It's like, sometimes they prevent information from being shown because it gets blocked. For me, I was reporting in Minneapolis during the riots in 2020 and in the United States, we had riots in 2020, 2021. That's how I got my following on social media. I was in the middle of it. Right. And a lot of my streams, even though I was showing, I literally wasn't even really narrating a lot. I was live and just showing what was going on. That was my stream. That was my whole update. I was out there for hours just live, holding the camera, right? And sometimes I'd narrate because I had a national audience or worldwide audience, and people don't know Minneapolis or Minnesota. So I narrated some things so people knew where things are and whatnot. But it was mostly just me showing what was going on. Wow. But Facebook and YouTube had issues with that sometimes if it was too violent at a time or something was on fire, or I don't know, they just prevent that information from even getting out because it's just too, I get too visceral maybe. But
well, it's narrative control, isn't it, when we're going down to it? And I think Jordan, I don't know if you watch a lot of Jordan B. Peterson, but he talks a lot about, free speech and the dangers of preventing it, okay, and trying to restrict free speech. And it's certainly along the same narrative as that. And I do struggle with that, because who gets to control it? Who gets to control what free speech looks like? That's the problem I have with this whole thing. I don't know.
I think a lot of it is internal too, as well. And like we were talking about, having some self-understanding too. Like if you have a YouTube channel, like unfortunately, I think you talked about this in one of your videos I was watching. You can't. If as a creator there's certain things you can't do or say or go down those routes because they're going to demonetize your video. Like it's gonna in the guts of your YouTube, in the studio, you'll get a video blocked, or something will get no monetization, copyright claim or something. And people don't know, they don't see that type of stuff. Or even my Facebook studio. Facebook is like the worst right now. I can't even cover the Ukraine war. Really, every other stream is getting copyright notices, or someone from Russia is coming in there and false claiming my stuff, and Facebook they don't look into it at all. They're just like, yeah, sure, go ahead. And then my video's deleted. I've been in like a shadow ban on Facebook for the past month due to the content that I'm doing. And it's not even anything it's not even in bad faith or anything like that. It's trying to find the truth of the matter. And that's kind of scary.
It's something that I've thought about, not saying that we're innovators or anything like that, but this is the first of its kind on social media. Like, you go back 10, 15 years ago, we weren't covering, Afghanistan wasn't covered in this way.
Not at all.
This is the first, and when we're older, we'll look back and go, hey, the start of that media revolution, I was part of that, because we are, at the end of the day. There's some YouTubers, look at Denis Davidoff. He gets YouTuber. Unbelievable. Great. And long may it continue to have that first-hand perspective of what's going on the ground over there. But he's getting 1 million views per day, give or take, on a video. He's getting substantially more coverage than any media outlet on the planet right now. That's insane.
And what's his style?
Truth.
This happened here at this time.
Because I'm living that experience.
And he's living there. Yeah, and he's living there. Direct information. That's why he's so successful. He's, hello, my friends. And then immediately, bam, this is what happened. Here's the map. These videos are like 15 minutes long. They're short form. Boom. But bam, you're getting the information, and you're not getting that. And I have to, during my stream, and I have to piece together everything he's talking about from all like the 15, 20 different sources. They only talk about it for like 2 seconds, but you got to put that in there, and then I got to include another source to add even more information. So that's why people are coming to independent sources, because you're not running a program. You don't have, I mean, maybe sometimes we have some advertisers, but I think YouTubers and content creators are better at advertising than TV stations are.
I agree. Because we cater for the mass. We cater for the masses and the niche. So I think it's slightly off topic. I really think moving forward, I would like to see in a world, think about it this way. We can either restrict us to a degree, or imagine if the news channels, just for instance, took this on as a revolutionary step forward in media. You've got the guy in the suit in the studio giving his professional advice on what's going on. Get a third-party source of information in. Whether it's right or not, bring one of us in. We're the normal guy. What do we think? And then none of us can agree or disagree. We can just share our point of view and let the audience have both narratives. I'd be happy to give my videos to the media. Right, bring Ryan in, bring Andrew in from Mercado Media. What do you got to say? They might actually find that we align more than we disagree. It's just that we are not affiliated to the media to be able to give them the props. I'm happy to be affiliated with people as long as I can speak my truth. I don't mind being wrong, because it's okay to be wrong. If we can. How many times have you been in an ops meeting where there's loads of people have ideas, they're wrong completely, but as long as they've had the free open discourse to discuss it, at least you can learn from that mistake there and then.
And then the sergeant there in that conversation who might have more experience can be like, no, actually, I've done that before. It doesn't work that way. Here's why. And here's why maybe this idea is a better idea.
Boom. I'm happy. I mean, I'm sure you are as well. I'm happy to be proven wrong on all the things I say. But I think there should be an open discussion, and I think they should invite us in. I think that's a massive market. Can you imagine if, I don't know, some of the new CNN was talking about a certain topic, the Poland thing, for instance, right, with the explosion that happened there. Can you imagine if they said, let's get Dennis on? He's going to give a different view for 5 minutes, but we're going to see our view, and let's have his view in. Just have an open discussion, with people who are doing it.
And what he knows and understands. And when I was covering that too, the Poland incident, I had like 4 or 5 different theories of what happened during that on that stream, because there wasn't one single answer at that time. No. And that's so huge to do. And some news sources immediately like came out and said it was Russia, and they reported that, and they got, I mean, in a sense it is, but it wasn't, nefariously. Russia did not launch a missile from Russia into Poland, but overall that we wouldn't even be having the conversation if Russia didn't invade Ukraine. So exactly. In a sense, it is kind of Russia's responsibility. But that being said, it wasn't a direct attack on Poland from Russia. So news sources had to kind of recant that and apologize for saying that, et cetera.
Absolutely.
But the information wasn't coming from the mainstream news at first. It was all from open source intelligence on Twitter. They were the ones that were getting the information out. And at least even though they were given varying theories, they at least had pictures of the site immediately before any CNN, Reuters, Associated Press didn't have any of the pictures.
Exactly.
Right. It was on Twitter first.
Exactly. Telegram groups had the
Telegram
information
had it first. Yeah.
And we could see, for instance, like, oh, here's a picture of it. Oh, that looks like that country made that missile. It looks like this country uses that missile. Right. We could come to a conclusion almost of who potentially used it. I mean, I got it wrong because I was quick to respond, but I don't mind saying I'm wrong. I'm not trying to give it as fact. It's just, this is what I think, let's open the discussion about it,
And people like that. I think people really do like that. And especially if you're it's the difference where people don't like it and they like it is when you don't admit when you're wrong. If you're exploratory and if you're wrong and you say you're wrong, people will love that, right? Because they were a part of it with you, likely through a video or whatever. They saw that you said this thing and you were wrong, and then you come out and say, "Hey, look, guys, I was wrong," and then you give them the right answer too. So not only was I wrong, but here is actually the correct information now. After I've spent some time with them, people love that.
I think so as well. It's been true to your conviction, Interesting topic, Ukraine, I'll be honest with you. But let's go back a bit from Ukraine. I want to. So we've talked a little bit about post-military and stuff, and we've kind of touched on being a civilian, some of the problems that civilians will incur, or military guys, veterans will incur once they become a civilian. What did you find difficult about becoming a civilian post-military service? What made it easy or hard or indifferent for you to leave the military and become a civilian?
Well, I left the military too early, I think. I should have listened to my NCOs and said, because I only did one duty station and one tour overseas. But they were like, do one more station, see if you really like the Army, like make sure. I didn't listen to them. I was like, I'm ready to get out like this. Because my first duty station was Alaska. Oh my goodness, right? Negative 73. Like it was cold.
That's
three and a half years there. I still have sometimes they're nightmares, but dreams of being sent to Alaska just because it's such a off. It's just you're there. You know what I mean? I only went home twice in nearly 4 years.
That's insane.
Because it's too expensive. It was nearly $2,000 for a round way ticket.
Wow.
I don't, and you're not paid. That's like that's a percentage of my whole yearly.
That's a large chunk. Yeah.
I was only paid $25,000 to $30,000 a year when I was first joining, so I didn't have the money to buy around, especially Alaska. That's so expensive. So I mean, I wanted to get out, but I wasn't ready. But I thought I was, so I was excited to get out and start something new. But then when I got home, oh man, what do I do now? What do I do now? I was like, because in the Army they try to help. They try to help you get ready for civilian life. I had to go through a week's worth of classes in the 10 days. I had a whole checklist, and it's literally, and you have to show your chain of command that you went to all of these places that you got, and they sign off on it, right? In the military, you can't do shit without getting a signature. So I had to go to all of these classes and all of these things, and to prepare me, and I had to write my resume. We had to sit in a room, and I'm sitting there typing my resume out, all the information, getting all my trainings, because those are worth college credits in the U.S. Army. Some of them are, a lot of them are. So you download that, because I was going to go to school. So a lot of my classes that transferred over, so that way I didn't have to take certain classes again because the military took care of it. All of that was about 10 days long. So I was like, get motivated, get ready to go. I'm getting out, let's go. And then I get out, and like, I didn't know what to do. And I fell into immediately. So I got out in 2016, and I fell into the wrong crowd pretty quickly. I mean, I went to the bar, right? And bars weren't ever really a problem. I went to the bar often in Alaska, but it was with friends, and it was always like just a good time. But it wasn't going to ruin my life, right? It was just like a good time for a couple hours. Bam, then we go back home and then work the next day, whatever. Do it again the next weekend. It wasn't ever going to ruin me. I wasn't an alcoholic. I wasn't engaging in those activities. But when I got out of the military.
You're not protected anymore, right?
No, I was. And then the other thing too is the drug test. I think it was the constant piss tests and accountability too. Like you don't want, because the ultimate in the U.S. Army, if you fail a drug test or get a DUI, you're going to get kicked out. There is no more second. When I was in, at least at the time from 2012 to 2016, they had a zero tolerance policy. So if you got a DUI or you failed a drug test, you're getting kicked out. Not only getting kicked out, but you're losing your rank completely. 45 days extra duty, 45 days half pay, and on post restriction.
And so you get like a dishonorable discharge.
For us, it's other than honorable, which is which is bad. I mean, dishonorable is really bad, but you don't want an other than honorable, because you have to petition your congressman to get that changed. After 2 years, you have to write a letter to your Congress and see it, and maybe they change it. But you know how systems work in the government.
They're not going to
that shit ain't going to read. No one's going to read that. That email might not even get read. So
I mean, that's effectively going to screw you over as well for any potential jobs in the future.
Absolutely.
That's a difficult one. It's the same in the British military, actually. I was petrified of doing anything wrong like that. Personally, to the point of which, again, we go back to respect. I respected that rule set enough to go, you know what? I'm going to have to, as we would say, screw the nut, do things properly, toe the line for whatever period I'm in. And I'm absolutely prepared to do that. For me, it was something I wouldn't even question when I was in. because the rules were there and they were quite firm. And I knew you messed up, you're definitely going to, there's going to be no, I'm sorry, you're getting out of there quickly, you know.
Because guess what? It's direct. That you
Direct.
know
Direct.
what the
It's not sugarcoated.
you know what the punishment's going to be, right?
Yeah.
You know what you're going to get, right? And it's a hard punishment, but you know, like if you get a DUI or you do drugs or if you can't smoke, weed is. I hope that it gets federally legal here in the United States. I'm supportive of it, but even in the military, you know that you can't smoke weed while you're in the military. Like you're gonna get kicked out. Like it's not a good, and it's gonna screw up your future. So I would really try to toe the line as best as I could in the military. Same. But again, like I'd go out on weekends and go to the bar here and there, do a thing, but it wasn't ever a problem. When I got out of the military though, and I went to, I found problems. I found the wrong crowd. I went to the bar one night and I still remember it vividly to this day. And it was just one random night. I'm out and one of my friends at the time, and I had to cut these friends off, but he's like, "Hey, you got $20?" I was like, "For what?" He's like, "Don't worry about it. You got $20? Okay, cool." Gave him $20 because I already had a couple drinks in me. So I wasn't really, I wasn't really thinking. And he came out with some cocaine. Yeah. Right. And so that started for me in 2016. That was the first night I did it. And it just spiraled really bad from there for the next 3 years, the end of 2006. No, so next 2.5 years. So the end of 2016 to January 15th of 2019, I fell into a pretty bad cocaine addiction.
Right.
And it almost ruined me completely. Like really
I can imagine, man. Talk me about that. What was that experience for 2.5 years like?
All I wanted to do was make money so I could buy cocaine. Like that, like the feeling that I got, and now thinking about it now, like I wouldn't, the fentanyl issue, and like I can't believe I did this. Like I am so thankful I'm alive today. I am so thankful because I can't believe I lived 2 years. Like some people go years and years in addiction. Yeah, I only went 2.5 and I made it out. But it was just 2 years of finding I worked maybe 5-6 jobs. I did them very well for the first couple months. And then I taper off and then quit because I didn't want to do it, or like I didn't like the people there or whatever. Like it was hard to fit into the environment because like the culture wasn't like how it was in the military, right? And so all I would do was quickly work, get my paycheck, and then try to go buy cocaine because the euphoric feeling at first that cocaine would give me would make all my, I'd feel, okay, I'm gonna feel good. And I have all these ideas. I have all these ideas that I want to do. And then the high wears off and then you're super, super depressed because when you do cocaine, it raises your levels and you're happy and euphoric. And then after about 20 minutes, it lowers it to complete depression. You're like, everything's terrible, and then you need more to get that euphoric feeling back. I
can relate. Before the military, I went down a very similar path. I kind of hit that low point at a similar age when you joined the military. And I realize now there's a lot of determining factors I can recognize that led me down to that path. And one of them is like an addictive personality, but that could also be translated into a motivated personality. You know, we need, if you reframe these words and terminologies, you can look at them in a positive light too. So ADHD symptoms, or I just look at it as I've got the ability to stay awake for longer and do things a lot more. I just need to be focused on something that I like. And there's nothing wrong in that. You'll probably be able to relate to the similarities within your own personality. And I think once you've lost that direction within a structured environment such as the military, you realize the bare bones version of you relies on that structure. And without it, you're going to revert to everything that can quickly satisfy those direct needs that you have, the direct need to be motivated, the direct need to be inspired, the direct need to achieve and accomplish things. You can do that in the military. Why? Because you kind of got no choice for a start.
And everyone's in the same situation as you.
Yeah.
It's like the playing field is set.
It's true. So when you leave, you find that isn't the playing field anymore, and you have got a few more choices, and you try and maybe do something that you haven't done in a few years, and that step outside of that structured mentality. Because although the military is structured by concept, it's the mentality that allows you to crack on with it. If you didn't have the right mentality or accept the mentality of the military, you wouldn't fit in anywhere. You'd have to go. So the fact that you've achieved a certain level of time in the military shows that you've accepted the structure for a start, and you've adopted that mentality to allow the structure to work its goodness for you. And I found that when I left the military, similar to you, that structure wasn't in place, but my brain was structured in such a way that I required that. And it's very easy for us to fall down those lines of self-abuse and everything else because, you know, it's the mindset that's structured. We just believe that we were in a structured environment and it wasn't the mindset. But you're probably finding now that your mindset is key to your lifestyle, and you can have the same mindset as you did in the military. You just have to accept that although life isn't as structured, my brain can be. I can be structured with myself. I can still live like I'm in the military. It's just not the same in that way. Do you understand what I mean by that?
100%. It's reframing your mind or reprogramming your brain to try to put those efforts that you did, because right now I'm learning, because this is my first time I've truly been alone for this whole year. I'm living, I have my own place. Like, I've worked really hard to come back from my addiction. So like,
that's fantastic, man.
My addiction, I was a bad spot, but I really had to take it seriously. In 2019, I finally said enough is enough. I went to treatment. I went to Minnesota Adult and Teen Challenge here for 30 days. And then after that, I went to outpatient treatment immediately. Like immediately after that, now I'm in outpatient treatment, but also I lived in a sober house too. So I got signed up. I went all in on my recovery for all of 2019 because I was finally done with the pattern. I was done with what I was doing. I wanted to fix it. So I went to inpatient treatment. So I'm living at the treatment facility for a month. Then I'm out of there and I'm living in a sober house, which comes with so many. And the sober house was a lot like the military in a sense. Like
I can imagine
you had chores you had to do. You had to get done. You had to have things cleaned. You had a certain area you had to maintain. Your area was your area. Other people's areas were off limits in the house. I mean, just as a respect factor, it wasn't like, the door was locked, but like you don't go into someone else's room. Right. So like, it was just like a good environment, sober environment. The program was amazing too. Not only was I in outpatient treatment, so I had to go to the treatment center during the morning time from 8 to noon. And then from noon until 6, I'm in the treatments, the sober houses programs too. So we had to do like AA meetings, even though I wasn't an alcoholic, there's still plenty of drug addicts too that go to AA meetings and all of this other things too. And it just helped me significantly. And being in that environment, recalibrating my brain to like not only learn that that my patterns were poor, but then also be in a new environment for a period of time where like now I'm making new friends, I have new community that I can engage in. I can reset my brain so that way I'm not focused on drug use, and I can like maybe pour it into this community a little bit and like try to you know what I mean? Like that's how my brain works. And through this process and where I was getting at, so this is my first time living alone, because after the sober house, I lived with family for a couple months, but then now that I'm on my own completely, I got my own apartment. I'm learning that I'm neurodivergent and I have ADHD, and like I didn't know that as a kid. I had all the patterns, and I think my parents actually took me in the 90s, but like that wasn't even really looked into like it is now. But I actually have an appointment, but it's not for 2 years. They're 2 years behind on diagnoses for adults with ADHD.
If you want to, I'm happy to talk to you post stream about this as well. I've spoke to a lot of veterans, myself included. I learned through my own sources that I am too ADHD. And trust me when I say we have all of the same similarities in terms of our successes, our wants and isms, and we also share a lot of the same problems and factors that can lead to our demise. And it's no surprise when you learn about the makeup of the individual, and when you realize something. I'm guessing you probably like energy drinks, right?
Yeah, I have. There it is, sitting right next to me. Yep.
Bang! How that's not just a guess. I know this. I've spoke to that many people. I understand it in myself now. If you realize what ADHD is, it's we are stimulant or stimulating environment driven. We require, I can guarantee you, look at all your statistics after every live stream, after every video, you're constantly analyzing all of those and you're seeking for something, a greater number every time. If it's not where it needs to be, that will lead to probably a depressive thought pattern, and then it spirals.
Yeah,
you know?
dude. Yeah, 100%. Like if my say a video doesn't do as well as the day before, I'm like, what did I do? What did I do wrong? What did I do? What do I need to do better? But it's really just some days YouTube algorithm doesn't kick in how it's supposed to. Maybe I get as many views, but
trust me,
100%. After I'm done with the video, I'm instantly in the creator studio, seeing the analytics and the numbers, and like, what did I do? Like immediately.
True. It's if you look at all of the pros you can have from that, it's you're driven, and it's a good thing to be driven by, as long as you understand why you're that way. ADHD has been something that was very problematic for me for a long time, but then I realized in the military it was never problematic for me, because when you realize what ADHD is, we're stimulant driven and we're success driven as well. So every day there was multiple different scenarios where it got me shocked. I had to adapt. I had to overcome. There was there was no discussion over whether or not you have to achieve it or not. You had to achieve it, and when you did, it was a short-term stimulus of success. Bang! On the next one, you had no time to relax, and that's what kept our personality types driven. When you're outside, you don't have. Yeah, absolutely. So again, we'll speak about this further after, I'm guessing, but your biggest successes will actually come from your personality traits. I promise you that. We're all the same, and I didn't want to generalize at the beginning, but I could have put £1 million on if I had it that you had similar character. I don't like to call them flaws. I like to call them pros, because there really can be a goldmine if you check into them correct way. And I think some of the people who unfortunately fall foul to the 22 statistic, every day, is not understanding themselves as much as they could, and realizing that we can all relate more than we can. Would you have guessed that I share similarisms to you?
I after talking to you now a little bit, but before I'm in this exploratory phase myself now. It seems like more than I do about it.
It's just because I've been through it, And
I'm in that now. I'm literally in that now, where I'm learning about myself more. I'm by myself. Like I don't have anyone. There's no one in here, right? It's just me. So I'm with myself all day. Yeah. So like I'm starting to why do I do that? Why do I do this? Why do I constantly self-analyze myself like every single second of the day? Like and it takes so much brain, and it takes brain power that you don't know, and you're tired at the end of the day. Why am I tired? Oh, because I spent nearly 6 hours in my brain thinking about 100 topics all about myself, and now I'm tired.
This is something else that probably happens. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I might start to scare you with these things, but let's just talk about how if I have an interaction, I will even be thinking after this interaction myself, and I'll have some element of guilt about the conversation I've just had, irrespective if I was right or wrong on something. I will constantly analyze if I said the right or wrong thing, because I worry about, this might be narcissistic, I worry about public opinion of me. I'm going to worry about your opinion of me. I worry about whether I give a good account of you, because I care about you, even though I don't know you. It's all of these things will be going through my brain thereafter. And I'm guessing
it's going through my brain while we're talking. It's every single day. Like that's how I'm built. And that's why a lot of people, a lot of us with ADHD, and again, I don't have an official diagnosis yet, but I'm learning this. I'm going through the process and I'm learning it. But that's why I believe I did struggle with drugs like I did, because I was so focused on it. Like the things that I did to acquire cocaine. Oh my goodness. Like the levels that I'd go to. And all I needed to do was just refocus and recalibrate that to something else. Yeah. And
it's
get
a
off of
different
drugs.
Stimulus.
Yeah.
I'm not massively acquainted with the reasons behind it, but this is it's almost funny when you realize why you went to a stimulant drug instead, is because ADHD is a stimulus based, I don't want to say problem, but it's a stimulus-based thing. So if you look at the medicines that they'll give you, to help with ADHD, they're all stimulants. Because we're all, so you'll like coffee, you like Red Bulls. Why? Because it's doing something different to you. It's doing something different to you than what it would do with someone without ADHD. For me and you, it gives us mental clarity and it puts us on the level. It doesn't put us any higher. It resets things and puts us on the level. We are seeking to be on the level. So the cocaine thing doesn't surprise me. It's a stimulant. It's going to put you on a level of normality. That's how people feel all the time who haven't got ADHD. We are searching for that constantly. Do you understand?
Yeah, because I mean, some days, like, I don't even want to do my Ukraine war stream sometimes.
Same.
It's not because I don't want to, it's no control. Like, I'm just like, I'll be sitting here like this, like, oh my God, dude, like, I got to get this started. And then I have a Red Bull or something. And I'm like, oh, bam. Oh, all right, let's go. Like, I'm ready to go. But so like, the other thing that I do is I smoke because I have PTSD and other mental health as well. I'm sure you can.
Sorry to hear, man.
It's part of what we have been through, you know, but when marijuana helps me significantly, like in terms of when I'm getting, like, my palms get sweaty, and you know what I'm talking about, where you get that little rage kind of kicks in a little bit. Something just, and it could be something small, like, and it just pisses you off and you're stuck on it for hours. And marijuana, just for me, has helped calm
it stops that repetitive voice cycle in the brain, right?
Yeah. And it's so, like, while stimulants help me engage in something, like, you know, really heavily engage, marijuana helps me when I need to engage less with myself or like in my own brain.
It stops the internal a little bit.
It helps with my internal, but I don't have any type of issues with marijuana like cocaine.
That's good.
Cocaine was ruining my life. It was ruining my life.
It's interesting how your body, you know, adapts to different things. I mean, I learned a lot about drugs and stuff like that, and I had my own ignorant opinions on things. And one of the most ignorant opinions I had was on cannabis. You know, I was of a certain opinion, and I didn't even. This is before I even tried this stuff. I'm like, marijuana is, I can safely say, is one of those herbs. It's not a drug. I don't like to say it. It's one of those tools that, unless you've used it, you really can't formulate a good opinion on it. Even if you're a scientist who understands the compounds very well, it's something that and it affects everyone differently. I may add, some people it's just not made for, you know, but on a human level, you know, when you look at the endocannabinoid system that we have in our body, this thing is endogenous within our own body. So it's strange that it's banned for a start. I think we need to explore further, especially with veterans. I think the veteran community are open to using it. There's more veterans using it than the military would like to account for, which I don't know why we should feel ashamed for that. It's a fantastic tool that can help reset that internal thinking pattern.
I think it's better than prescribing veterans pain pills or prescription drugs, because then that leads to opium or heroin use.
Yeah, you look at the United States. I love the US. Look, I mean, I may not be able to see, but I've got a flag right behind me. The US. I love the States, but you do get the pill problem massive. It's wrong, and I'll stand by that, and I'll take offense. I'll take people's negative comments on that. It's a real problem in the States, and we can see it from our side that you guys has got a real opium problem. It's the painkiller thing. It's like,
it's painkillers.
Like, you guys have access to that? Yeah.
Yes.
Like when I went there, I was so shocked at what you have access to. Now, I do believe in a free world and society where you should have access to anything. You should be able to do whatever you want, right? But we should definitely restrict things that are harmful for people and make it a little bit more difficult to go through that, especially when in some states it's hard to get hold of pot. Like, it should never be hard to go. You should never be going to a dealer for pot now.
It's easier. It's easier in the States to get pain pills than it is to get marijuana card. There's certain states you still can't. You still don't even have medical marijuana legal. Thankfully, my state, we have medical. We have medical, so I can get a card and do what I need to do.
That's fantastic, man.
Oftentimes, the process to get pain pills is way easier than getting marijuana.
Shouldn't be the case, dude. But unfortunately, it is. Talking about, you hit on about a little bit of your post-military career difficulties and stuff like that, and addiction you spoke about. This is something that's dear to me. I know it'll be dear to you just by default. Why do you think veterans have an inclination to drug addiction, homelessness, suicide, etc.? Why is it that our demographic specifically, there seems to be an issue there?
Because we go from such a structured environment to no structure, and we've talked about it. I mean, the direct nature of conversation, the friendships that you develop in the military too, are like brotherhood, sisterhood, depending on, you know, it's you become so close to people, and then you're put out here in the civilian world, and people don't have that level of friendship ability, because you're not going through situations with people like you were in the military, where we had to embrace the suck together. Like you went through a really bad, like a shit situation, and then you got through it with that person, and now you're like best friends forever. Like I have people that I haven't seen in 5 years, but I can text them, and I could text them right now and pick up a conversation.
I agree.
Like we haven't, like we just saw each other yesterday from the military. I do that often. I mean, I text one of my friends. He's a New Orleans Saints fans. I haven't seen him in 5 years, but when the Vikings beat the Saints, I'll text him, "Hey, Skol Vikings," and he goes, "Ha ha ha!" Like I haven't seen him in 5 years, but we're just that close of friends, or even periods of time go by. So I feel like we struggle when we get out of the military because we lose all of that. It's more than just one thing. It's multiple things that contribute to that. And like for me, like I said, I'm learning that I have ADHD. So that environment where I went, where everything was laid out, I knew what was up. The structure was laid out in front of me, literally on the chest, the rank, right? So I knew who had more power over who I needed to go to on what day at what time. I knew who, you know what I mean? So, and going from that to like, oh man, now what do I do out here? You know, what I don't know anything really. Because like you said, they teach you how to become a human again. You got to learn how to wash yourself, learn how to brush your teeth, like literally learning how to become you're like a newborn baby when they get you, and then you make you become an adult afterwards. But then when you get into the civilian world, it's like those people out here didn't go through that. So a lot of people, even though they're an adult, their mindset might still be like they're in high school, because they haven't developed, they haven't left their hometown, they haven't done anything. So yes, they might be older, they might be a grown man, grown woman,
certainly not wiser,
but mentally they're not changed since high school at all. And that here you are, been through all these experiences, maybe a deployment, maybe you've been in an engagement, you know what I mean? You've been through some life experiences that these civilians, they just haven't been through, and their mentality reflects it.
I agree. It's you're hinting on that friendship that is hard to describe to other people, how you can pick the phone up and be cool with each other. If you want to, if the only way I can explain it, and instead of trying to, I could just give people this. Me and you have never spoken in person before this podcast, and I'm getting on with you like I would any other guy in the military, like a house on fire. I feel as if I could share a beer or a coffee with you anytime, and I know for a fact there's some level of reliance upon you that I could have or utilize if I was in a situation in the military where I would need it. I know I could work with you right now because we share the same values, and we've never even spoke or met before. And I feel it's that connection, right? It's no different from my friends in the military right now. It's just a different name, you know?
100%. You know, and I've had similar with other veterans too, like our operator Starsky he's in Ukraine.
Nice guy.
I've had him on my, I've never met him before. Never talked to him. Immediately just rolled into a conversation.
Yeah,
and he's in Ukraine,
and that isn't the US. That's not even a US-UK connection. That's a completely different demographic of people, right? Mm-hmm. We speak the same language in the military. You know, I've worked with like Jordanians, I've worked with French Foreign Legion, and like different. Even with guys who couldn't speak English and I couldn't speak French, we were the same. We were such, and you know, crazy, but that's the beauty of the military, I think. And you know what upsets me a little bit about it when I dive deep into it, and here's me getting philosophical and stuff, but militaries were designed to protect each other from each other to a degree. Like, you're not fighting the country, you're fighting that other military group potentially, right? Mm-hmm. Yet we're all the same, man. Like, you know, when I look at World War I and II and certain groups of people get demonized, it's like, don't demonize the people who are fighting. Please don't, because it's not the people who are fighting who should be demonized. Granted, certain countries do different things and atrocities happen in certain areas, but the basic soldier is not there because he's a nasty guy. We're all the same, and we're fighting against each other, all because a political cause that we may or may not be affiliated with. Like when I was in the military, I can say this now openly, most of the causes I generally wasn't aligned with anyway. It was my buddies who I was like, I care for my buddies left and right of me. The cause, not so much. And I've spoken to many guys who are like, well, I can understand where you come from. You do get one or two guys who are for the cause and everything.
Yeah,
but
for
mainly
patriotism or whatever.
Yeah, but for me, mainly like what does patriotism mean to me? It means looking after your brother and potentially, laying your life on the line for that person. That's what true patriotism looks like for me.
And even for an example too, you mentioned World War II. Eisenhower made it an order for all the American officers not to take the Nazi officers' pistols or any of their firearms from them when they were surrendering, just to show a military respect there between officers. Even though they were Nazi officers, they were still given that soldier officer respect from even American officers. And
long may that continue. We seeing that not happen. I don't know if it's because it's more on social media now, like demonizing certain groups and stuff like that. I do get it, right, when you get public opinion, but from the soldier perspective, I don't know many people who fought in Afghanistan or Iraq. True veterans. I don't know any true veterans who hate those people. They're bright enough to understand that it's not them they're fighting, even though it's them they're fighting. It's hard to describe.
You're at the will of the government, honestly. And
do you know what I mean?
Like you said, you got the person to the left and the right of you when you're out there, and like that's what you got, or maybe even your family back home you're thinking of. You know what I mean? But I mean, for me, it wasn't. I joined the military to get my head on straight. I didn't join because America or patriotism or anything like that. I joined because I was screwed up and I needed to get my head right. And then I got to
get my shit together.
And I found myself in Alaska and in the Middle East and Germany, and I just wherever the Army sent me, I was just okay. I guess here we go. Right?
Absolutely.
And that's how it works.
Yeah, it's strange, right? So that aside, you're obviously doing fantastic on YouTube at the moment. Mercado Media formation. Talk me about that. How did that whole thing come about? Because I think, and I'll say again, I think you're doing a fantastic job. Whatever your preconditions of what you think you're good at or where you should go down, if I was to look out from the observer as I am of what you're good at and what you should do and continue with, I think you should try and definitely continue to do what you're doing. Push it as hard as you can until the wheels fall off, man, because you've got a natural gift for getting information and relaying it back to the people in such a good way, an informative way. I admire that. Like, it's something that I'm striving to become better at, and I look at you as inspiration,
Well, thank you so much. And it goes back to experiences and things that, I've been through. I didn't have any intention when I started my own media or YouTube channel, Facebook page, social. I was nothing on. I had my own friends on my Facebook page, and my Instagram page, but that's just personal stuff. Like I wasn't trying to create anything on the internet prior to 2020 in the United States. I was just normal guy, right? Normal dude, didn't have anything. And in 2020 in Minneapolis, after George Floyd was murdered and the riots had started, I live in Minnesota and I live here. So and this goes back to our conversation about the news a little earlier. As I'm sitting here in my room, or not here, but I was living at the sober house at the time, and Call of Duty Warzone had just came out. Right? It was brand new, right? This is in 2020. So I'm sitting there with my friends playing Call of Duty Warzone, not doing my homework because we just went to distance learning because I'm in school. I missed that part. After I had gotten through my addiction. I went to school to become an addiction counselor because I wanted to actually be a counselor to veterans. I wanted to go work at the veteran inpatient facility and work with that. So like I learned a lot more about addiction through schooling and everything. Yeah. I was doing so well, 4.0 GPA.
Wow.
Like I was the veteran, the president of the Veterans Club at Minneapolis College in downtown Minneapolis. I was the addiction counselor treasurer. So I was in charge of the money for stupid, right?
Yeah,
an addict in charge of the money for the program, but I did it well and whatever.
That's phenomenal.
Pandemic happened, distance learning. I shut down because I was the type where I finally did good at school because I showed up in person. I was there every day. Like I was involved.
You were engaged.
I was engaged. I was, like I said, I was the president of this club and the treasurer of this club and did this and this and this. And I was doing so good at school and I sucked at school. Like I told you a little earlier, I was a C student, B's occasionally, maybe A's in the arts. But, but this time I was getting a 4.0. I was killing it. Pandemic happens, distance learning, and we don't have to go through all that again, but I'm at home, not doing homework, not doing anything, because I'm not going to wake up and sit on the computer and do responses to things and then for nothing. You know what I mean? Like, I don't feel like I'm getting anything out of this homework.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not doing it, but then it's negative points for me. So I just gave up eventually. But so pandemic starts. I'm sick of watching the news from the coronavirus updates. I'm so tired of it. And then this event happened. George Floyd murdered. Downtown Minneapolis is like 20 minutes away. I'm like, you know what? I'm going down there myself. I'm going to go see this for myself. I'm tired of watching the news. The news is junk. I'm going down there. So my friends on Warzone, they sent me off, right? I'm playing with two friends and they're like, yeah, bro, we're going down there. We're going to go check it out. We'll see you down there, right? Just like the military, just like my friend when I joined the army and he was going to join it with me and I was the one that went and he didn't. But so I go downtown Minneapolis and I'm messaging him, yo, where are you? Where are you guys? Bro, we didn't think you were serious. What do you mean?
I've got my combat helmet on and my body armor. I'm ready to go.
I had this shit with me. I was out there. I had everything, like all of my gear, and because I was still in the reserves at this time too. So like I still have a lot of my shit, but I was still in the military till in the reserve. So when you get out of active duty here in the U.S., you can be a citizen soldier, and then 1 week in a month, you go drill, wear the uniform, and then you're off for the next month or whatever. And then 2 weeks of the year, you go to annual training somewhere across the United States, or maybe even in your home state, and you just do 2 weeks straight of field training.
It's cool.
And that's how the reserves work. So that's what I was in at that time because I did my time active duty. Now I'm in the reserve. So I go downtown Minneapolis. It's nuts. Right? Did you hear any? Were you watching anything in the United States in 2020 about the riots here or anything?
Shortly. It was before I kind of got interested in like current affairs and stuff like that over there.
This is what started me. This is what started me. So so vaguely then, riots started, George Floyd murdered, riots started. Went for like a week straight and then protests afterwards. But there was stuff happening all across the United States in 2020. It wasn't just Minnesota. It started in Minnesota, but then, I went out there. So you know how live streams work, right?
Yeah.
68,000 people were watching me on Facebook.
That's insane.
Concurrent, like, in the top right corner, 68,000. And that was one night, but most of the nights, like for 7 days, like riots straight, like I'm out there, buildings on fire. I'm seeing like things that I've never seen before, right? Like buildings coming down,
that statistic alone is up there with, just to put it in perspective, live streams of any kind across the globe don't hit those types of numbers. That's
7 million,
insane.
7 million
independent
views.
Live streams anywhere. That's incredible.
That stream got 7 million views, and this is the start, right? 3 million, 7 million, 10 million, 7 million. These are my first streams I'm ever doing. I've never done live streaming content before, and like I have all these people, right? And so like they're following me, and like I'm like I don't know what to do with all of these people now. Like the riots went for 7 days, and then I had plenty of protests to cover. So I stayed with it, followed the march, people marching, and they had signs, and I just followed them around, and I literally would stream it like we talked about.
I might have actually tuned into one of your
streams.
You might have seen it. You might have realized because I was doing that. I swear, honestly, it was on the ground stuff.
Yeah, I was doing that. I was a part of there. It wasn't just me either. There were so many great independent in Minnesota and doing that, right? And so all I do is, you know how it works. You just go live. And I had mobile on Facebook. You can use the mobile application. I didn't even know how it worked. I had to ask my friend, how do I go live on Facebook? I didn't know how it works. So I did it. And all I do is I had my phone out there and just go like this. And
That's insane.
This is what's happening over here. And there's so many people were watching.
That is insane.
But so I had immediately overnight, I developed 63,000 followers in one night on my Facebook page. What do I do with this, dude? What do I do with this? So that was in May of 2020. And it wasn't until August that I developed Mercado Media. Right?
Fantastic.
I had to do something with
what
it.
What a conception story. No, I don't think anyone's had quite a start like that. In your naivety as well, did you know how important that, no one gets those numbers, right?
No,
that's insane.
Not immediately. So that was, and I maintained about 20 to 30,000 concurrently for a week. But that one night, 68,000, I'm looking, but the experiences too that I went through, I mean, like I'm even though I had press on and whatnot, I'm kind of in the crowd. So like I'm subject to tear gas and getting flash banged and shit. Like, dude, I've been flash banged so many times. I got a flash bang hit me in the chest and explode, and like I got knocked back. I've been CS gas. I've been CS gas more. I've been CS gassed more as a civilian than I did in the military. Like, we only had to go through the gas chamber once. I was man,
that's insane.
But thankfully, ironically, I did it because I knew what the gas was like. I was like, oh, this is CS gas. I was like, just keep going. You're fine. It was like, you guys can breathe. It just seems like you can't. I know.
Well, did you start shouting to people, what's your name, rank, and number?
Yeah, what's your name, rank, and number? What's the Warriors creed? No, I'm dead. But ironically, the military set me up for this shit. Like, I didn't even plan it, but I didn't know. Some tear gas, CS gas, whatever. But after Minneapolis, I'm following the protests. I developed Mercado Media because I go to Kenosha, Wisconsin. You know, Kyle Rittenhouse? Mm-hmm. I was out there during those riots too. So you ran right in front of me in person. I was out there.
Really?
I was out there for all of it. So that's where I got even more followers, because it was the same thing basically, right? So Minneapolis happened down in August, because not just that, but I went from Minneapolis to Seattle, because I went to Portland because there was protests there too, and people rioting there as well. So I went to all of these cities in the United States, and every time I'd go, I'd get more and more followers, because like I'm on the ground, I'm going live, people are tuning in.
This is like destiny. I don't like to talk like that. This is like, when you look at like what life primes you for, you can't see what those struggles are preparing you for, but there is definitely an answer somewhere if you give it time. And the penny must have dropped for you, right, at that point. And you know what? Like, that's when the struggle reveals itself to you. It reveals like the reward of, I'm going to test you. Are you made for this, Andrew? Right? Okay, we're going to prove it, man. Because guess what we got coming for you in 2020. We need to see if you're ready for that shit, And you've been through that.
And we can get it might be a little deep and dark about it, but it is what it is. But leading up into that, man, I went through in 2019, before this had happened, I went through a pretty deep depression. I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. It wasn't that I was going to, and I was actually, and I can't lie, I was thinking of returning to cocaine use in 2019 because of the pandemic, not 2019, 20. When the pandemic started.
It was a difficult time for everyone, right?
Yeah, difficult time. I'm sitting at the sober house, like, I don't do it, and it's going to sound dark, but I was YouTubing like what happens when you die. Like, I went through a whole deep, dark rabbit hole about death and very dark topics about the end of life, because I was just not sure about what, and not that I was suicidal, but I was like exploring, like, man, with like, dude, I haven't done anything in life, and like I'm just like, I'm still figuring myself out. So it all kind of came together at like
bit of soul searching in there.
Yeah, I was soul searching in that, and then bam, the riots had happened, and I'm doing something, and like people are counting on me for something, because they're counting on me to go live so they can see what's happening.
Seriously, man, like you're made for this. Honestly, I'm just off the story, giving a bit of context to what I've already seen on your streams. I'm not just saying this for like, I'd like to think we are straight talking people in the military anyway, but I'm telling you, man, you're made for this. You are made for what you're doing right now. Don't ever lose sight of that. And like, whatever you're manifesting right now in your brain, like, keep with that thought process. I know it's difficult to go through with the streams. Sometimes I go through that every day myself for the exact same reasons. I've got to pick up like a pre-workout myself to do that. I know what I've got to do to get stuff done. And as long as you're going through that process to get it done every day, what you're doing, keep doing it, brother. Because like I'm a fan. I'll be honest with you. I know there's a lot of people really counting on you to do what you do. And I think it's only just the start of things. I think Mercado Media is going to grow into something far greater than you could ever imagine, because those scenarios that you explained that happened to you, those are going to come tenfold in the right way for you to be able to cover and report and give that information back. I just think they're ready to reveal themselves to you, man. You know, and from what you've said, like, you deserve all the success in the world, brother. And I mean that. I'm so proud that you're not part of that unfortunate statistic that the military seems to be producing at this moment in time. If it means anything, hopefully it means something that's going to keep you motivated, because you're such a good guy for doing what you're doing, and you are hitting a lot of the right people who need that information. You know, I'm just speaking from a veteran point of view as well. Like, I like what you do; it keeps me motivated. So thanks, man, and I really mean that, dude. You know.
And that's crucial. I hope that, I mean, you continue to do your updates as well, because I've tuned into them and they're pretty damn good too. People like your experience and you using your military knowledge and reflecting that onto the current events that's going on, especially during a wartime. People want to tune into veterans because you have the mindset, you know, you can tap into the mindset of even the Russian soldier. Right. Yeah. You can talk about that. Right. Yeah. Whereas civilians have no idea what the mindset of a soldier is like.
And I'm sympathetic to both sides, you know, without forming like an alliance to either party, just trying to talk neutrally on the situation. Like, I don't think people who haven't served realize just how damn scary, how petrifying, I'm talking about for the ordinary guy who isn't made for the military, by the way. Most of the soldiers fighting in Russia at this moment in time never wanted to join the military. They're the guys that would have fallen or dropped out of military training had they been pushed into it. So we're dealing with a demographic of people who are petrified. Like, they've got bombs exploding, rounds coming down, seeing the friends get their guts blown out and stuff. The average Joe can comment and say horrible things, but from a moral point of view, I understand how horrendous it is for any side. It's like almost to a point where I'm like, well, you can't really say that about the other side. You don't know what they're going through. I mean, I wouldn't like to guess how many Russian soldiers don't want to be there.
You can't even. You know? Most of them, from what we've seen from the mobilized that we're looking at, just from video evidence, is most of them.
Most of them, there, right? They don't want to do that shit.
Their conscript commander just leaves them out there high and dry, and then they're rebelling. They're pushing back. There's so many. I mean, you've seen all the videos now that are coming out every day. The mobilized and they're likely going to mobilize even more and send even more conscripts out there, and like
to get blown to shreds.
To get killed because they have no training. You can't just throw someone in a uniform and send them out onto a front line. Like, I couldn't. Like, so for me,
it's unfathomable to me.
I'm an 88 mic truck driver. I have some understanding of how tactics work, but even throwing me in like a infantry
you'd be nervous,
situation,
right?
I would be scared or not scared, like nervous because I don't know. I haven't been trained. I don't know.
You'd be professionally nervous about
professionally nervous. I don't want to. I would be worried about getting one of my teammates killed because I'm not proficient in this task or this movement. Like, for me, like, just to give you an example, I'm not 100% on how to clear a house. Right? Like, I don't know. I need to do that repeatedly to understand that because I'm an 88 mic truck driver. I don't clear houses. I drive trucks.
It's not what people think. It's like it's exceptionally hard for the best who do it. Yeah. For the best who do it, you will get a high percentage of casualties because of the nature of it. You're going into a room where someone's built up the perfect position to defend from, i.e. a corner. You've got the first shot on target. People don't understand these things, right? I mean, from a basic perspective, and this is not I'm way better than anyone. I respect any part of the military, no matter how long you've trained for. And I mean that truthfully, because the whole organization doesn't work without everyone in the organization, period, right? So the Royal Marines, for what we do, it's the longest basic infantry course in the world. It's just how it is. It's like it's 36 weeks now. Basic infantry. That's just a bit. So that's basic, you know. Like, to put that into to confirm, our British Army's pretty good. Right, you might have worked alongside. Their basic training's 14 weeks, and they're good at what they do within that time frame. Ours is 36 weeks now. of basic training. That's forget about you specializing it or anything. So it's long and it's hard, right?
So
but
for the infantry, they combine it, your basic and your infantry school together into one, or is it a completely different training that you go to?
So to come out of the Royal Marines as a fully fledged Royal Marines Commando capable of being deployed anywhere with a unit at any time, you complete that part at 36 weeks.
Wow.
But before you go and do like, you want to be a sniper or a GPMG machine gunner or a mortarman or a military policeman or anything, you'll spend 2 years as a general rifleman. So that's as basic as you'll ever be. Will be when you pass 36 weeks, and knowing what I know, we're quite trained at that point. You know, some militaries will specialize to that and still not get to that at our basic levels. So that's just the way it has to be because we're small and we're contained. But once you start adding specialist courses on and stuff, that can take, like a mountain leader course, for instance, is like 13 months long after commando training. So that is insane. That
is a long time. That's what some of our big time jobs are like that. Like, so basic training for us is 13 weeks for everyone. And then after that, you go to for infantry and combat jobs, you're in it for
months.
It's your basic training basically doesn't end. You're in that whole thing, and because then you go immediately into the infantry school. Like immediately, and again, I didn't go to infantry school, but from what I've heard in the U.S. Army is immediately after the basic training phase is you start the how to become an infantryman. But it's all blurred together though for that specific training.
It's a long time.
Whereas like for as a pogue, a person other than a grunt, like. For my schooling, it was 7 weeks after basic training. So I went to basic, then I went to a different base in the United States, Fort Leonard Wood in Missouri, to learn my to do my 88 mic truck driving school. And I'd go there. Mm-hmm. But like for some jobs, like the behavioral health specialists, and we have that's
insane
a year.
Amount of time. Yeah, easy.
That's a year.
Time. You're not getting out of that cycle until, and no. Even then, like you're going to learn stuff afterwards, right? You know. Yeah, I think people they get disillusioned with. I don't know how it's perceived in America, but in Britain, it's certainly it's generally perceived as the military are not really intelligent. And I understand there's certain levels of the infantry in the army, for instance, who they don't need a high IQ score, right? But some of the things that they have to do is extremely complex in nature, in a non-theoretical way, granted. But that physical IQ has to be really, really up there. You've got to be able to do complex tasks. And guess what? Some of the guys who were gifted with natural IQ and could go and do a degree and stuff really struggled with that translation from theory to physicality. Your physical literacy has to be on point, I would say. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. Everything you just said. 100%. I can relate to that, and like the IQ thing. And some people just weren't meant to be leaders in the military, which is okay too. The Army itself, though, does try to push people to become sergeants and NCOs because they want to continue, just based on a macro point of view. The military wants, they want new leaders to replace the old ones that are going out. So there's going to be a system there that wants to continue pushing people. But even within the military, some guys are good at being a Joe. They're good at being
nothing wrong with that, right?
There's nothing wrong with that. They're good with being a troop. Like being told what to do, which is okay, and they're good at that too. They're good at being told what to do, right? And then there's some people that can take initiative and like get things done, or or find leadership tasks to do, or disseminate the information down to that Joe that needs to do the work, right? And those people exist too. I feel like there's less people that are good at the disseminating part of the information than there are people that are receptive of it. But for sure, the importance of both is important within the military structure. People that are willing to do the work and like accept that, and then those that are good at leading and disseminating information, getting it out there in a proficient way.
I agree. Yeah, it's full of different dynamics and stuff. Like, and I think you're allowed to excel in whichever one you're good at. I've noticed in the military as well. Hey, Ukraine. If I was to summarize Ukraine so far, and you were only given a couple of phrases or sentences rather to summarize what you've seen so far, what would those phrases be?
terrorism, genocide, illegal war or legal invasion. However, I don't know if you can really. We have the law of war here that we go off of, so there is actually some legalities to combat.
Yeah,
you can't just do whatever you want. So it's poorly justified. All the reasonings that Russia's invaded Ukraine. It's just more of what we've seen from Russia. I mean, this has been a tradition now that we've seen from the invasion of Chechnya and then Georgia in 2008. Yeah. Now here we are in Ukraine. 2014 was everyone was trying to warn the world like, hey, Russia's going to invade Ukraine. Russia's doing this. Russia's doing that. No one really listened. And now here we are in a full scale invasion of Ukraine by the Russians.
Do you think that's an attitude stance from the leadership within Russia?
Absolutely. It stems from Vladimir Putin.
I think so as well. And my personal opinion on it is because we've seen, like you said, that happen in the past so many times, and we can even go back further than that if we wanted to. But more recently, I think we've got no reason, irrespective of the outcome of this war, to suggest otherwise that Russia will continue to do this throughout time. I think unless there's some form of intervention, and I personally don't know what that looks like.
Me neither.
I think this is going to be a constant potential threat from Russia.
Do you think we're in like an attrition with Russia like this? Because the Cold War was a similar type situation, and here we are 40 years later.
So I'm saying
back in it again.
What is going to be what are they searching for overall? Because I don't think I think it goes past wanting to be more of a influential superpower, because they must understand that the way they're doing things prohibits that, period. I generally think the world would prefer to go to war than to allow a superpower to do what they do and then effectively rule the world within their rhetoric. It doesn't align. If the world had values, generally speaking, moral values of the world, I don't think they're aligned in the right way. You can't just go about wanting to be superior by command and conquer. It doesn't seem to work, you know?
100%. 100% it doesn't. And that's why Russia has so much pushback. And this, like when you said it earlier, right? In Afghanistan and Iraq, we didn't have the social media we do now to investigate things and go into it like we are with Ukraine and Russia. Like we're on it immediately. People are on it. Like this is all we do, right? I do some other news when I can, but really I'm 100% on Ukraine and Russia right now, just like many others are. And this wasn't the case in 2014 when all of this had started, but even in America and the West, when we were in Iraq and Afghanistan, we only had the big mainstream news sources to give us the information on what was happening in the Middle East. Now here, like I'm living in Minnesota, and I have an audience about what's going on in Ukraine, talking to Ukrainians, having Operator Starsky come on, figuring out the information. There's just a level of accountability that we can hold to Russia now and Russia's actions, and they can be seen vividly for the world to look at now. And that's why there's so much pushback and unequivocal, like this is wrong. This isn't how the world should operate. Right?
Yeah. I like that last phrase you've just said. And I think that's irrespective of our opinions and our indifferences on, covering Ukraine. I think all of us can agree, or I'd like to say, I have confidence that all of us could agree that irrespective of what you think, we can all agree that it's not right what's going on over there. Like, if you can't agree with what's going on, you can't agree with conflict in that region, period. It just shouldn't be happening at all, The fact that it is going on 2022, after COVID, after Afghanistan, after Iraq, after Kosovo, after all of these things, it blows my brains. It honestly does.
All of the lessons that we've supposedly learned, and here we are, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's history, and like you said, what is accountability? What is the level of accountability we can hold to Russia without being like signaling, and fight Russia? Like we want to fight Russia because the deterrent is Russia's nuclear capabilities. We don't know what that is. We don't know what that looks like. We don't know how well their nukes are, but it's the fact that they have them. Right, that's the deterrent. Right, nuclear power, and wanting to meet their aggression with that. Russia's already shown they're willing to one up. And no one wants 100%. To see them one up on a nuclear level. So that's why that this dance with what accountability levels there can be held, which sucks because we're seeing Ukrainians getting cruise missiles all throughout their civilian population on a weekly basis. So it's like, more civilians are getting killed.
It's terrible.
It's terrible to see. And it's like, we're in this, like, what can we really do besides just continuing to aid Ukraine or help Ukraine with what we can do?
Yeah, I agree. I agree completely. I think against everything that's happening, it's the normal person that's suffering, which no one wants. I wish it would stop now, Granted, we would be not necessarily out of a job, but out of a topic. But I long for that day, to be honest with you.
What have you seen that you can talk about the Russian military tactics in Ukraine? What have you seen?
I think although we're seeing changes and they're trying to almost adapt slightly to different situations, I think what we're seeing in terms of tactics is something that we've seen for the past 150 years. I don't think much has changed at all. I think they're trying to use an attack, something that might have worked in the beginning in terms of, look, the once was an age where wars were won off sheer might, willpower, brute force, and mass. And Russia had that at one point, but it doesn't solve anything now. And it's almost as if they're trying their best to hold on to that way of thinking, and and no amount of killing, we can see that no amount of deaths on their own side will change that rhetoric. So what's going to change that for me? Well, it definitely needs a political shift in the country, full stop. I think there's more than enough people in Russia willing and wanting that to happen. Granted, they might be fixated in some ways, but one thing I think we can all share is their loved ones don't want their troops to die in the way that they are, and they'd be willing to
seeing
change.
it. And we're seeing it
now.
Their loved ones are on TV or trying to plead to the Kremlin, like, we don't have answers we don't have answers. And they're not even receiving any of the benefits that they claim that they're going to get.
It's crazy, right? So it's like, yeah, it isn't working. Obviously, it's a good thing that it's not working, but moving forward, we need to change the rhetoric completely with why wars started in the first place. All comes down to politics. We should never be fighting wars over politics. And it's the number one reason. It
is the reason why it happens too.
And it's like, really, this should be at the bottom of the list of why people disagreeing with policy and it's like that should be at the very bottom end of the Richter scale for reasons to go to war. It doesn't make sense to me,
It almost, would you tune in? And this is a question: would you tune in if, say, there was like a live stream conversation between Zelensky and Putin, and they just sat down two people and
I think it would be the most viewed stream, at least of the year. I think they'd be shocked. In fact, if they want to make money from this, that's one way to do it. The amount of people that would tune in to that conversation, like the G20, I know, like there was talks about Putin attending and stuff like that, and Zelensky not wanting to go. Either way, those two guys need to have a conversation in a where they're both in a position to completely get whatever they want off their chest, and any problems that they have should be taken out on each other first before innocent men lose their lives. Every problem should be started with the leaders of countries. I mean, I've said before, let's have a no holds barred cage fight with them both.
put them both in there and see what happens. That'd be interesting. People would tune into that too. But
I would tune in. Get Joe
Rogan. More people might tune into that than the conversation. But but I feel. I mean, I completely understand Zelensky's position, and when nobody's listening to you, and you got this aggressive neighbor that's killing your people.
What's the point
on a weekly basis? What's the point of talk? Like,
I can understand.
I can totally understand that, but also trying to do devil's advocate, third party, pull myself out, like. A conversation between the two, there wouldn't be any bad thing, I don't think, come out of it.
Because in my opinion, and I might be naive with this, if you can get to the point of where the two leaders can talk in some form of civil discourse in an environment where they're both physically together, in my limited understanding of it, then the war ends with that. How can you have people deployed in areas that they shouldn't be after the two leaders have had some form of discussion? To me, it doesn't make sense. If you've gotten to that point, I don't know, how can you physically put people into combat once that's happened? To me, it doesn't make any sense.
Right, especially after try to have a conversation, and it's tough too after having a conversation to lay everything out. And it is such a strong geopolitical conversation that's way above us too. You know, I mean, talking about world leaders together, talking and whatnot. But I don't think that there'd be anything bad of a conversation. Like, it's not like Putin and Zelensky have guns and they're going to shoot and kill each other. They're having a conversation, and that could maybe, at least while that conversation's being had, pause the battlefield. But I also understand, again, Zelensky has tried to negotiate with Putin many times. He's tried. It's failed. Putin has no interest in it. He's shown that he's just going to aggress. But again, all that understood, I still like the conversation wouldn't be a bad thing. I agree. Just from a third party perspective, but with full understanding that this is Russia's actions and their actions alone. Ukraine's on the defense, but even with that understood, like, it sucks that you even have to be like, hey, Ukraine, you know, it's time to have a peaceful conversation while the person that is actively attacking you and killing your people. It's like, that's such a tough conversation.
The contradictions are endless, aren't they? Really?
Yes, literally, because somebody could be like, well, you know, you can't talk because Putin's done this and this and this. And it's like, I get it. Yes, I know. But, you know,
which probably highlights the number one issue here is the inability to communicate effectively without jumping to conclusions, which is exactly why Ukraine is happening.
No.
So post-Ukraine, this is all done and dusted, and it's no longer a topic that is covered. What's next for Mercado Media? Where do you like to see the channel to develop?
I'm already thinking on that, right? Ukraine could go for another year, right? We could have another whole year of war to cover, but I've already, like, when I was talking about my initial reporting in the riots in 2020 and 2021, I knew that those were going to end eventually. I knew those weren't going to go forever, and I was going to have to do something after this. Did I know what? No. I had no idea what I was going to do. I tried video games and I still stream video games, but I built a Facebook page with 12,000 followers.
Wow, like, that's hard to do again.
Streaming Madden football, and I'm playing Madden because I'm a diehard Vikings fan, and like I'm a diehard football fan, or American football. You know what I mean? We use our hands, but they call it football.
So you basically have something that's banned in our football.
So I have a passion for that and the Vikings, and I put that into my gaming streams, and bam, I was getting more viewers for my Madden football streams than I am even for my Ukraine streams.
That's insane.
Now I'm getting more viewers now, but like I was just going hard on that.
To build, right?
Very tough, because video games, like, and I'm sure, I don't know if you get this, but that's even worse for me with video games, with motivation to play them. Like, if I don't have any interest in that game that day, I'm not playing it. Like, I'm not.
I don't know how. Like, the professional, sorry to cut you off, I know, like, Dr. Disrespect, he's the best at what he does, in my opinion. But people forget, that guy has to sit in front of his computer for 10 hours every day and keep the character. Trust me, you know that he's going through bad points during his week, don't you? Because I know money motivates people to a degree, but it's just to him it must just be a number now. And he's like, really, I'm a grown ass man, 40-year-old, and he probably doesn't even want to play Warzone, man. You know,
probably not. But he's good. He's good at it. It's something he's good at. But I can't. I'm still trying to learn how to do that for 9 hours straight. But I could do that. I could do that when I was out there, right? When I was doing my reporting on the live in person in Minneapolis and in Kenosha and Seattle and Portland and I was great at that. I could be out there for hours because I'm in the environment. I'm in it. You know what I mean? We're getting tear gas and everything, but like it's a stimulating environment, as we were talking about. It's high intensity. Like, I can thrive in that. Bam, I'm good in that. I can be in that for 12 hours straight, probably. Right? I could do that nonstop. But then when I'm sitting here and I have to like find things and be interested in it and like keep my brain occupied on it can be so hard. But so I had to figure out what I wanted to do after the riot. So I did Madden streaming, and then it was almost damn near identical to when I got sent to Minneapolis by my friends. I'm sitting there playing Madden, and my chat is on there. They're like, "Yo, Vladimir Putin's announcing an invasion of Ukraine. You should check that out." I was like, "What are you talking about? Like, I don't know anything about Russia or Ukraine." So I'm like, "All right, stream. I got to go check this out really quick. I'll be back in a little bit." I haven't been on that Facebook page since April, likely. I don't think. But So I tuned out of the gaming stream, shut it down, pulled up the information. I'm like, "Oh my God." like this is real. Like Russia's invading Ukraine. Like what the fuck? So then I quickly pull up the live feeds and there was live feeds at the time in February of the Russians actually entering Ukraine. There was CCTV cameras up, and that's what I did at first. Was I'd have the CCTV cameras and all tabbed out, and I'd be there and react to the live of watching the Russians enter Ukraine. And that's how I started the Ukraine coverage. It was just reacting to the live CCTV footages in the country. And I feel like that's why it's got me prepared for what I want to do next, is because every time I have to figure out what I want to do next, because
something else.
Yeah, that stopped because Ukraine, with their operational security, had to shut down the CCTV cameras, so that way people couldn't just see what's going on, right? That's obviously that's smart. So I couldn't do the CCTV live reactions anymore, so my viewing kind of went down a little bit because I had to realign what I wanted to do next, because I had to figure it out. So I was like, okay, Rob from Speak the Truth does great on the maps, right? He does he used to tune into my stream when I was doing the live reactions.
Wow.
Like he used to be in my chat. I was like, okay, he does the map updates, and Dennis does a great job with relaying the news also with the map updates. Maybe if I can try to see if let me try this map update thing and see if I can do this, or let me try to see if I can pull up some news about the day. And then it just kind of over time, it's developed into what you see now with the map breakdown and the news updates. But it was really just trying new things and failing and sucking and sitting here sweating while you have like thousands of people watching, and you're like, dude, like I suck at this, but like fuck it. And oh man, and that's what's so great about the live, I guess, is because people can see that and they can see you working through it and trying to get the information instead of being a talking head on TV saying that this is what happened and this is the information and that's all you got to go off of. With the live stream information, I feel like, and bringing it back where I want to go from here is, before we got on this podcast, I was struggling with my camera, and I'm going to be getting a new vlogging camera. I want to do more reports, like documentaries. I want to continue the live stream news, but I want to do
get out there and do stuff
like BBC style documentary reports where they're talking to people, or like Sky News does great with it as well from Australia, or even like Associated Press does it for the United States, does that sometimes, in Reuters, and they do like great like Netflix worthy documentary style reporting.
I agree,
where they're out there in the ground and it's high quality video and you're like, that's what I want to do. I want to take it there. So I know the live stream will always have a place, and maybe someday live stream quality can be like really good quality video. It's getting there. Like we can do 1080p from my phone. I can do 1080p quality video, but it's obviously not like it's still got some latency and some fuzziness on the screen, and it's not as good as quality as like documentary style reporting. I want to do both. I want to continue my live stream. I'm sure in 2024 in the United States, we're going to have protests before the presidential election. Well, it's a shit show here. It's a shit show here, right? So I
think it probably is going to be right on that one. And
so if I'm wrong, we can come back to this podcast and be like, Mercado predicted it or he was wrong. But I bet you I will be out there again in 2024 doing what I was doing in 2020, reporting on protests or current events in the United States. I don't have the means to travel overseas yet and get I can't go to Ukraine yet. I would if I had all the means and things to do so.
That's something that I was actually wanting to ask you about. Yeah. I think there's a category, there's a niche for people like me and you when times align to actively go out. It's a bit like that mentality of joining up together in the military. Say, hey, this is what we got. We're going to do this. We're going to cover, for instance, potentially, I don't know, the riots of 2024, if they do happen, something like that. And I think that would be probably the next development of what you're seeing on YouTube, is guys getting out on the ground and doing that. And yeah, I would like to probably do some joint coverage with you on that. If you're ever in town or I'm in town, hey, let's get the cameras out, man.
Absolutely. It's not hard. You hit the live button and it does it. It streams. If there's something happening, that happening will speak for itself. You know what I mean? Like that's what I learned most when I was doing my reporting, is I don't have to, like, there was times where I didn't say a single word. I was out there live. There was so much happening where I couldn't even talk because I'm like, what? Oh man. And then I have my camera fixed on that, and then bam, another thing happens and I'm over there for another 20 minutes. And like, it's just trying to relay information in a good faith matter, not trying to fool people, trick people, give say that this is happening, but it's really not, or like even taking it an extra level that Russia does, and like false flags and like a fake scene that isn't even real and like saying it is, like that's not what it is at all. There's an event happening. The event speaks for itself. You're out there. You're with whatever device you got to go live, and bam. And that's how I found my success early on, was just letting the event speak for itself. And like you talked about, let the people that were watching it develop their own opinions on what they're seeing. Because I'm going through it with them. Yes, I can say how I feel on the situation from what I saw, but you're seeing it too. So even though I'm out there myself in person, standing there filming it, you watching it might still even have a different perspective on watching what you're seeing than me. Yeah. But you can come back to me because I was out there, the five senses, that I could smell, hear, touch, taste, anything out there. You know, I have an extra level of understanding of what I'm doing than maybe the viewer, but at the same time, they still have that where they are watching too. They're there with you. They're on the stream.
Yeah. So whilst, I don't know if you've heard something on my stream there, a bit of a notification came up, sorry. I wanted to finish on this, mate, first and foremost. As we started the stream, really, where can people find you, social media again? If you've gotten this far, just direct people to where you need them to be. Feel free.
Mercado Media on Facebook, Mercado Media on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram. We have a Discord server, over 4,000 in our Discord server community, which is a huge platform. I highly recommend you get on. Do you have a Discord?
I used to. I actually deleted it with about 5,000 people on, so I shouldn't. Yeah, bad move.
It's starting to pick up again. So try to get back into that, because like you can create, like my whole community is on that, like different channels for different topics, different things. Because I cover Ukraine. You were on. I saw you on my criminal trial coverage too, that I do occasionally. You know, other things, because people are focused on different things, but at least they're all focused in my server. They might be talking about different topics, but at least they're talking about it they're talking about it in Mercado Media. And that's what matters. And like Facebook and Twitter and all these social medias, the algorithms hard to get your content out there.
So true.
Whereas like Telegram, people have to come to your Telegram, your server, and they're in your community. Yeah. Or even Reddit, for example. Reddit's another one people use now. And developing a Reddit page.
I agree, mate. And just for reference, anyone watching, all of Andrew's links will be in the description. So please go give him a follow and stuff, support him. He's got some fantastic content. Andrew, thanks for coming on the show, mate. I'm sure we'll speak again, because I could have spoke to you for another 2 hours personally. And
I could have kept going. Yep.
Yeah, and really thank you for jumping on. I appreciate it so much, dude.
Absolutely, Ryan. Thank you so much, and continue doing what you're doing. You're doing an excellent job. Your videos speak for yourself. I've seen your videos a year ago when you did the reaction to the U.S., what the U.S. military is like, and all of your reaction videos are excellent. And that's why I feel you should continue doing that. Continue reacting to Ukraine war news. Continue doing that. Maybe if you don't have you don't feel like doing the long form for the night, maybe mix it up a little bit. People love that long form. Also shorts. Those shorts you were doing, continue doing those, because YouTube is going to start paying money in January for shorts. So do those again. Those were great. You did great at those. Great work.
Hey, thanks very much, man. I'll leave that final word to you, brother. I'll speak to you soon, guys. Thank you for tuning in. I've had a fantastic conversation with Andrew from Mercado Media. Again, links will be in the description. If you do anything today, please smash the like button. It really helps me out in the algorithm. This is a brand new venture. And thanks once again, Andrew, for joining us, mate.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. Thank you again. Thank you for having me on, Ryan.
Take it easy, guys.
All right.